Welcome everyone to the one day late midweek Moisky news. My apologies for not uploading yesterday. I was otherwise busy on uncle duty at a zoo. Much fun was had by everyone but me. Yes. I did get a plush snake though, so there is a win, and a wood pen, so I'll always have wood in my hands. We have 4 subjects I'd like to go through today. Yes, we're actually going to talk about that and not the zoo trip or me making random puns that could be, penis jokes. To start, we're going to go with Gordon Brown, the most interesting and entertaining of all former prime ministers to ever exist ever in the history books. Seriously, look him up, he's fun. Who believes that with furlough ending, there is a massive risk. This risk is that while many companies are paid a considerable amount of money to keep people on, they'll just get rid of them anyway, which could cause a, air quotes, tsunami of unemployment. Coronavirus has already caused a significant rise in unemployment, which is hardly a surprise. Many people are still afraid to go out, but also add to that the fact that many are now being put back into lockdown, either because they show symptoms and are waiting for tests and results, and that is in and of itself delayed, or because the infection rate has gone up substantially in their area, which is hardly ideal at the best of times. Gordon Brown, along with many others, is leading an initiative to try and hold the government accountable, but also encourage them to pursue other areas to ensure that with the impending unemployment rise, that many other aspects of society aren't negatively going to then impact those very people, along with others who would then be at risk of losing their work. First would be a constitution for the Bank of England that would require them to take action on unemployment as seriously as action on inflation, with no interest rate rises until unemployment is again below pre-crisis levels. If anyone watched my PMQ stream last night, I'm not overly fond of the word crisis because it is misused on many occasions. Next would be a revamped growth fund with regional hubs to buy shares in viable firms to replace unrepayable loans. To continue furloughs where there are local lockdowns. Now this one I do actually support. If you're stopping people from being able to work, and they have work, what do you expect them to do? Start claiming welfare when they are listed as employed? Subsidies for part-time working through 2021, much like in Germany and France, particularly in key slow-to-recover sectors. So just the high street then, right? Front-loading big infrastructure projects so they become shovel-ready soon. Infrastructure is used as a buzzword a lot. This could mean anything from filling potholes at this point. Continued links to Europe's job-creating science and skills programs. If they are related to the EU, then we can't, without negotiating terms to be able to get access to them. A jobs-creating Green New Deal. The Green New Deal, right. This one is a contentious point and has been going on for a while. For the sake of it, I'll give you the Cliff's Notes. That was the Cliff's Notes. I hope you enjoyed it. This has been my TED Talk. Final point, and most of all, the 500,000 young people who have left school, college and university and training, joining 250,000 already unemployed, with the request being a genuine guarantee that gives each one the chance of work, training or education. I like the idea that someone's come out of university and the first thing you've said to them is, what you need is more education. Someone's going to get a little bit salty over that one. As far as this list of requests go, actually it's not too bad an idea, and obviously I was mocking the Green New Deal. It's actually not a horrific idea. I might cover it in a future video on its own, because it is an interesting subject. But I do believe the government will ignore most of this because it came from Gordon Brown of all people. While some of it is reasonable and the government should of course take it seriously, people don't forget easily what the ex-Chancellor of the Exchequer did to our economy when he sold our gold at its lowest possible value. We had £15 billion worth of it, remember? You sold it for 3 Mars bars. The next subject I'd like to talk about is Keir Starmer, who's had a bit of a mixed bag of a week. On Monday it was announced a member of his family showed symptoms for COVID-19, so he and his family isolated. Responsible man. He then waited for his test, got his test, submitted his test. On Wednesday morning, he got his results and was cleared. But for some peculiar reason, Angela Rayner took his place for PMQs. If you want a good laugh, I recommend you watch it, because I hadn't watched PMQs. It was essentially a reaction to it. But I think I made some points, whilst laughing quite a bit at some of the rather peculiar questions being asked by Angela Rayner that made no sense when she started on a different subject. She just swerved every time. It was funny to me. He's also been busy holding the government to task on the internal market bill. Michael Gove himself has conceded, they probably should start listening now, because some of it doesn't really... it does actually break international law. So understandably, it is quite interesting that the UK government is still pushing ahead with the internal market bill. For some odd reason though, and this is kind of where I agree with the government, the part that is contentious is that the customs arrangement between Britain and Northern Ireland, which is contained within the withdrawal agreement, well, this legislation overrules that and says the UK will unilaterally make decisions, with Brussels saying it has to be done by a joint committee. I was always against the agreement that they managed to come up with in the first place, the agreement that Northern Ireland was the one that then got to choose, because in reality, EU won't allow it to happen. They never would. And I think if we want to make some kind of issue, I think we should just push ahead with that bridge from Scotland to Northern Ireland at this point. We'll get our stuff and they'll get their stuff. With this all in mind, we get to continue with something rather interesting. John Major, Tony Blair, Gordon Brown, David Cameron and Theresa May, all previous 5 Prime Ministers, are unified against Boris Johnson for this very thing, for the internal market bill. A number of them have claimed this goes against not only international law but besmirches our reputation, because how can we say we keep our word if we're going to intentionally then throw it in the bin? My view was, this sounds like preparation for no deal, and it still feels like that, because no deal seems more likely at this point, and no extension is happening, unless the EU blink first and beg us for an extension, which I don't think they'll do. I think they're going to be good sports about this and take the hit, the massive financial hit. Well, Tony Blair and John Major have decided to talk about this together, believing that Boris Johnson is embarrassing our nation and bringing shame on the country because he's trying to tear up the Brexit divorce deal with the internal market deal. Well, with this in mind, we should now probably address the fact that the internal market bill passed its first hurdle in Parliament by getting voted through for a second reading, which is a huge win for the Prime Minister. Granted, he actually has quite a lot of Tories that aren't overly fond of this. Some are senior MPs, some have in fact offered their resignation because they were the liaison to the House of Lords, and even they feel this breaks the law and they can't keep on peddling what appears to be a breach, but also one that he can't defend in the sense that the Prime Minister said one thing and done another, which is all rather interesting, I believe. I don't even know if the Prime Minister is yet to accept that particular resignation, but because all the messages get then funneled to the House of Lords, who then grill them like there's no tomorrow, they've also said, you realise we're just going to throw this out, right? Because they can do that. It's one of those interesting times where I'm not sure if I support it or not. But I do agree with the aspect that we should make decisions on customs arrangements between Britain and Northern Ireland. Because that, to be honest, has nothing to do with the EU. It really doesn't. And yet many believe it does. I'm looking forward to that bridge being made. It sounds better than that blockade apparently being offered up. There was one other story I wanted to cover concerning Natalie McGarry, who was an SNP MP, lost a seat in 2017 after she had been deselected by the SNP because of allegations of embezzlement. A recent article indicated this was a recent event. No. She was sent to jail for 18 months, spent 7 days there, appealed it, it got overturned and now is going through a retrial. I will hold off on this one until the retrial is concluded. It's all quite interesting really because she's accused of embezzling 25 grand from Independence for Women, a group that she founded. Yeah, As with everything we cover here, I'd love to know what you think. Please do let me know in the comments down below. As a final thing, there was a PMQ stream last night. I've mentioned it twice already. Please consider going and watching. It is quite amusing to watch Boris Johnson and Angela Rayner, because it felt like Jeremy Corbyn's shadow the entire time.